You are listening to a TechSide Network podcast, TechSide.net, casual conversation from technically passionate people.
This is Americanitis, episode 15, Horny for Fascism, for April 11th, 2020. I'm your host, Daniel Sagner. This podcast contains harsh language and covers adult topics. You will be challenged by views with which you do not agree. We may not be politically correct, but we are correct about politics. I'm here to tell you what you already know. Your neighbor does not wish to live. He simply fears death. There is no flame burning inside, desperate to be free. There is no light, no bombastic soul, no bold pride. There is only the cold cowardice shrinking from one dark corner to the next, hiding its face, afraid of the next moment. The quarantine has brought into the sharpest focus the true nature of the men around you. No one's opinions changed. Everyone is just more convinced that they were always right and that this proves it. If you thought we should have national health care, the lack of coordinated response proves it. If you are a proponent of free markets, the fact that countries with national health care are doing poorly proves that you were right. Isn't that amazing? Everyone being right. The would-be dictators, of course, seized immediately upon this opportunity to push whatever backwards, rights-abusing policies they wished. Daily, they are drooling with open mouths, lusting for more power over men. A germ allowed them to act with impunity, and they jumped. But of course they did. This is to be expected from those who act like beasts. I hardly raised an eyebrow weeks ago when I told you about the Illinois mayor who did all but throw on a toga when she signed into law her ability to seize the title to your home for any reason. Like I said, of course they did. Since then, we have had shelter-in-place orders, restrictions on what products we may purchase, and the police arresting people for walking too closely or paddleboarding alone. The world, it seems, has gone mad. And in a way it has. It doesn't make sense, does it? Why would Americans allow for this to happen? Have they no self-respect? No, they do not. Your fellow man, if you could call him a man, is desperate to be a slave. He desires above all else to not have to think. He wants to be told when to leave the house and when to stay, how to interact with people, whether or not he should wear a mask, when he will get his government check, when he can go to eat at a restaurant, if seeds or clothing are essential items, if his job is essential, when to work and when to cower in fear in front of the news channel that he has mindlessly selected. They are horny for fascism. They want a strong man to tell them that it's all going to be okay, to just please tell them what to do to make the bad virus go away. They are lining up to polish the boots of their porcine emperors with their tongues. They revel in the fascist control of industry. They want to see it all brought to heel, controlled, restricted, torn down. They have always hated men of ability anyway. They say it's due to the businessman's avarice, the academic snobbishness, the entrepreneur's recklessness. They say this because if they admitted the truth, it would destroy them. They hate those of ability because of their ability. They hate that they are unable to match it. They hate the knowledge that their lives are dependent on those who do. Those kinds of people have always existed. And those kinds of people, instead of controlling nature, seek to control man. But you would be forgiven for thinking that this is a new phenomenon. Take one part, hatred of people who do, people who love their lives. Now mix in a pinch of nihilism and ennui and ignorance of history and bad philosophy, Shake for 50 to 60 years and you will produce a creature who enjoys tattling on neighbors and cheers police drones being used to track people walking the countryside. I used to think that the election of President Trump symbolized that most people were fed up with political correctness. I thought people felt unheard and put upon and wanted someone who would punch back. This quarantine without a whimper has disabused me of that notion. The fact is that most people are fearful, timid, lazy. They take no personal responsibility for their very own lives. If Daddy Government doesn't feed me and take me to the doctor and tell me what things are essential for my life, what will I do? They want a man not of ability but power. No production needed, just guns and batons. That's right, we'll take from those greedy, snobby, reckless men. They'll give us what we need, they have to. Why? Because we said so. The president has ordered GM to create ventilators. This is fascism. Governors have ordered citizens confined to their homes upon pain of incarceration or fine. This is fascism. The police are stopping people for not walking 6 feet apart. This is fascism. Various cities have started using drones to track citizen whereabouts. I'm not saying anything you couldn't look up yourself, so why am I telling you this? Because you need to see the conversation. You need to see what people are saying about these things. They are not recoiling, criticizing, or even aghast. They clamor for more. Yes, they cry. Get their license plates and find them. Down, they say. Down with those who are not following blindly. More, they scream. We need to make sure everyone obeys. This is fascism being pushed with furious speed forward by the populace. I may be criticized by some who think that I should focus on the real long-term threat, that of socialism, but my friend, fascism and socialism are alike, far more than they are dissimilar. One controls business at a political level, and one owns the business at a political level, and I fail to see the difference. They both rest on the same premise, that the individual is unimportant. You are just a cog in the great machine of society. Now, Americans had a built-in defense against this kind of authoritarianism, a sense of life that spurned the idea of bending the knee. Ours is a nation built on the overthrow of despots. The Boston Tea Party was over a 10% tax on one product. Today we have 30 to 40% of our paychecks stolen from us. Where is the revolution? Where are the protests? I don't see any tax collectors walking tarred and feathered through my streets. They lost this sense of life, those who sully the title American. Between the options of safety and liberty, they have made their choice. 243 years departed from Europe, and what do we have to show for it? The vox populi is the lingua franca in more ways than one. The United States of Europe has an awful ring to it, doesn't it? How about Emperor Trump? This is where we are headed, not because of the tiny tyrants. They've always been there. We're headed down this dark path because Americans have lost their way. A government does what its people want. A constitution is only so much paper. In the end, it comes down to the people who are reading the laws, making the laws, executing the laws, and voting on the laws. Our philosophy is corrupt, and no document, however well crafted, can withstand that. Now, it brings me no pleasure to tell you all this. I feel as though I'm reading the obituary of the country that I love like precious few before me have. I care not for king or blood or race or gods. I value above all but my own life, the individual thinking mind. That is the legacy of America, and that is what she will leave behind for historians to rediscover. Hopefully some future Aquinas will rediscover our Aristotle, Ayn Rand, and a civilization will once again rise, built on the only thing that can make it rise, the recognition of the inviolate rights of man. Now you may ask me, why would I continue this podcast if this is how I truly feel? Because, my dear listener, this podcast is not for you. It is for me. This is an entirely selfish pursuit. I use it as a tool to better understand my chosen philosophy. This tool is serving its purpose well. I can see no end in sight, but if that day comes, I will stop. Who knows? Maybe I am the author of the Rosetta Stone that leads some future mind to a revolution. Probably not, but maybe. Now, if all of this seems bleak, it's because it is. I found it difficult to find something to be hopeful about this week. I don't know how or why, but Ayn Rand began to trend on Twitter. It's likely because Atlas Shrugged was recently moved to the non-fiction section. This, as with all trending hashtags, brought out the naysayers and the busybodies. They must announce to the world that they are morally and intellectually superior because they disagree with this particular Russian-born philosopher. That's all well and good. Have your disagreements, at least make it worth my time, however. Every time this particular hornet's nest is poked, it is always the same tired, uneducated, ill-informed, spurious ad hominem attacks. She took welfare, she had an affair, she smoked cigarettes, yeah, we know. These attacks are as threadbare as they are unoriginal. What I found inspiring is the defense that was mounted. Across the Twitterverse, I saw my peers defending with fervor against the tide of mealy-mouthed pundits. They came not with vitriol as I was tempted, but with facts, information, calls for reason, invitations to better understand. And this is what gave me hope. It's what I try to do here. Not only defend, but to go on the offense. If general philosophical change is what is necessary, then let us do it. I call upon you to defend free markets and free minds, defend human rights and human reason, defend individualism and the American spirit. I would never ask you to do this for myself or for your children or for your grandchildren. I ask you to do this for yourself, because it benefits you to live in a country governed by reason. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for yourself. And tell the country to stay the hell out of the way. Got a topic or feedback? Reach out on Twitter. I'm at Americanitis Tech. That's the @ American, ITISTEK. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts if podcasts are your thing. I'm also on YouTube, so remember to subscribe there. Patronize us at patreon.com/techside. Show notes are at techside.net/Americanitis. I thank you all for listening. Later days.